Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the magic of movie making. You know, it's a process that's way more structured and honestly more fascinating than you might think.
So, have you ever been sitting in a theater and just wondered, how did this even get made? How does a multi-million-dollar blockbuster, or even your favorite little indie film, go from just a tiny spark of an idea to this huge global thing? Well, it's a massive, super intricate journey, but believe it or not, it follows a surprisingly clear path.
So we can actually break this whole epic journey down into 5 main stages. You've got development, then pre-production, production, post-production, and finally, distribution. And we're going to walk through every single one. Let's dive in.
All right, first up is stage 1, development. I mean, this is literally where every great film begins. It's the absolute foundation, where a simple idea starts its very, very long journey to becoming an actual script.
Okay, so you can kind of think of this stage as the project's infancy, right? The idea itself can come from anywhere: a novel, a comic book, some crazy true story, or even something called a spec script, which is basically when a writer just writes a screenplay hoping someone will buy it. But the goal here? It's simple, but man, is it difficult. You've got to craft an amazing story and then convince someone to pay for it.
And when I say this can take a while, I mean it can take a long time. Get this, the Oscar-winning film Unforgiven. It was stuck in development for 15 years. 15. It's just this marathon of rewriting, pitching, and waiting for all the right people to finally come together.
You know, until a project gets that official green light from a studio, it's basically trapped in what the industry famously calls development hell. And trust me, countless incredible scripts just die there. It's what makes every single movie that actually gets made feel like a tiny miracle.
Okay, so once a film finally gets that green light, we move into stage 2, pre-production. And if development was the idea, this is where that idea becomes a detailed blueprint. I'm talking every single detail is planned out before a single frame of film is shot. So the very first thing you do is assemble the dream team, right? The producer goes out and hires all the key players: the director, the cinematographer, the production designer, casting director, the whole crew. Each one of these people is a master artist, and their job is to take the words on the page and turn them into the living, breathing world you're going to see on screen. So you might be asking, why all this crazy, intense planning? Well, it all comes down to time and money. Every decision made right now, from drawing storyboards and scouting locations to building sets and scheduling every single shot, it saves a ton of headaches and a massive amount of cash once the super expensive production phase actually begins. And that, of course, brings us to stage 3, production. This is the part everybody thinks of when they picture filmmaking. Lights, camera, action. This is where all that meticulous planning finally gets put into motion.
You know, when you're on set, every single take follows this very specific, highly coordinated procedure. It's like this well-rehearsed dance, or a ritual almost. All these calls are made to make sure that the camera, the sound, and of course the actors are all perfectly in sync before the director finally yells, "Action."
And then, at the end of a long shooting day, the director and some of the key crew will sit down and watch what they call the dailies. This is just the raw, unedited footage they shot that day. It's a super important feedback loop. It lets them see what's working, what's not, and make any changes they need to for the next day's shoot.
So once the shoot is over and all the footage is in the can, as they say, the project moves into the 4th stage, post-production. This is where the real transformation happens, where hundreds of hours of raw footage are molded and sculpted until the story finally takes its final shape.
A lot of people say post-production is where the real magic happens. First, you have an editor who literally sculpts the story out of all that footage. Then you start adding all these layers: sound design, visual effects, and of course, the musical score. They're all woven together to create that final, totally immersive experience. And once everything is in place and the director approves it, the film is considered locked. And that means exactly what it sounds like. No more changes, pencils down. This marks the end of the creative process. The film is now a finished product, ready for the world. But hold on, the journey isn't quite over, because a film isn't really complete until people actually see it, right? So that brings us to the final stage, stage 5, distribution. And this is all about getting the movie out there, in front of audiences all over the world. So traditionally, films are released in a series of windows. It's basically a strategy to make the most money possible. You know how it goes. First, it hits theaters. Then, a few months later, it's available for streaming or on Blu-ray. Then it goes to premium cable, and eventually it might end up on regular TV.
And, of course, this final stage includes all the marketing and promotion. The trailers you see, the posters, the interviews with the cast, a massive, massive effort goes into making sure you know the film is coming and that you're excited to see it. And get this, that marketing push can often be just as expensive as making the actual movie.
But what's really incredible is how this entire traditional system is being completely shaken up. Thanks to digital technology, anyone with a camera can be a filmmaker. The rise of indie films and online platforms like YouTube has totally democratized the process. It's breaking down all those old barriers.
And that leaves us with a really exciting final thought about the future of cinema. Now that the tools to create and distribute are literally in everyone's hands, what new kinds of stories are we going to see? We're right on the edge of hearing from a whole new generation of storytellers, and honestly, the possibilities are just endless.